Diamond B Sports presents the American Sports Cavalcade. A panorama of speed, color, drama, and excitement. The American Sports Cavalcade.
Cincinnati is one of America's most impressive cities, rising majestically from the Ohio River shore. It's also a sports-crazy town. Riverfront Stadium rocks in summer to the tune of Pete Rose's Reds baseball club, and in the fall to Boomer Esiason's left-handed bombs to his Bengals receivers. But this weekend, the Cincinnati Enquirer sports pages have been full of racing coverage as the Stock Car Connection stages a second event in its All-American Challenge Series at Queen City Speedway just north of downtown. We brought you the first race recently from Air Super Speedway in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, the Molson 400. American Speed Association Midwest superstar Butch Miller and his number 52 Camaro won over challengers from the Southern-based All-Pro organization and the American-Canadian Tour drivers from the Northeast. Today, the three bodies battle again under a common banner. Hello, everyone. I'm Steve Evans, and welcome to the Cincinnati 300. 300 laps on this banked half-mile track. On the pole is Bobby Dotter, the number 79 Thunderbird. Bobby has been on the pole before, but has never won a race in his ASA division. But, Bobby, you were quoted in the paper this morning as saying that if you ever had a chance, this was it.
Well, I've never had a car that's handling quite as good as the Miller American Ford is today, or at least it was yesterday, and I hope it will be today. The car just about drives itself. We can just keep it running. Yesterday we had an ignition problem. We think we pretty well got that sorted out now. I really feel that we're going to do it.
What corner on this racetrack is the most difficult for you?
Well, I seem to have a little bit of problems getting off of number 4, which I think most everyone does. That's about it. 1 and 2 is fairly easy. Late in the race, when it slicks up, you see a lot of guys having trouble getting off 2. But 4, everyone will have trouble all day.
Do you drive these 300 laps just as hard as you can all the time?
Well, at a place like this with the heat we have today, I don't really think you can. I think you're going to have to kind of watch your tires and make sure that you don't burn them up, because you can fall back. You could fall way behind quick.
Okay, thank you, Bobby, and good luck.
Thank you.
You know, alongside Bobby in the front row may be the happiest driver in this entire field. Right, Brock Hicks?
Well, Steve, starting on the outside of the front row is Dave Jackson, a man who has run this racetrack probably more than anybody in the place. He's a hometown guy. He got a home field advantage, really, but Dave is a little bit of a newcomer in ASA and big-time competition. Got a run for Rookie of the Year in that league this year. And, Dave, I'll tell you what, you're off to a super start. Congratulations on your second fast qualifying time.
Well, thank you very much. We put this Hickernell and Williams up here on the pole, and we just want to thank all my sponsors for putting us up here.
Well, you're gonna obviously set some kind of a pace maybe until the first pit stop, and then try to run hard at the end of the race after the racetrack kind of gets worn in a little bit.
Yeah, we'll see what the track does, and if the clouds come over here, it's liable to get faster and might not be quite as greasy.
Well, if anybody knows how this racetrack changes on a hot summer day in Cincinnati, I'll guarantee it's you.
Well, I appreciate that.
Okay, good luck. Dave Jackson. Well, starting right behind Jackson and Dotter in row number 2 will be 2 formidable ASA competitors. Mike Eddy, Midland, Michigan, in green number 88 Buick, one of the best. Right beside him, Mark Martin out of Batesville, Arkansas, a man who holds the absolute track record here at the Queen City Speedway. Steve?
Inside of row number 3, you'll find number 52, Butch Miller, the man who won it all at the first race in Canada. And Butch, some people expected you to take the pole here, but it was not to be.
Well, we seem to be able to get around this track very well, but for some reason I can't do it when it's time to qualify, you know. So I guess we go home poor because we didn't get the pole.
But you certainly got some experience winning the Showdown of Champions race. In fact, that was kind of a late charge.
Oh, I managed to choose the wrong lane as usual, and I went to the back of the pack before I could make my way back up to the front again.
You know the right lane now, though.
I hope so. I was planning on running high, and you know, during the race, and everybody else was high, so I had to learn to run the bottom groove, and it's a little tougher down there.
Have a good ride.
Thank you.
Rock.
Well, folks, if you watched our race on Santa Air, that number 97 was a mighty familiar number to you, as Ted Musgrave from Grand Marsh, Wisconsin, drove a really strong race to run into second spot there. And ironically, today he's going to start right next to the man who won it, Butch Miller. But Ted, I would imagine your plan is to reverse that order today, right?
Well, that's the plan. If we can carry it out, I'll be very happy.
Ted, I guess everybody's concerned a little bit with the heat and the general condition of the racetrack. Is it going to take a little time, say, to the first pit stop before everybody gets kind of sorted out and figure out who can run and who can't?
Well, that's our plan. We're going to start off the first half of the race and just kind of sort out how the car and the track conditions turn out to the end and plan from there.
Okay, well, I hope everything works out well. Good luck.
Thank you.
A very calm, cool customer is Ted Musgrave, as they all are in this 36-car field. There is Dick Trickle. He won the ASA titles in 1984 and 1985, one of the most popular drivers on the circuit. And the engines have come to life as they will now go out on a few pace laps to warm up the tires, the drivetrains, and the engines. This is a unique situation. You have cars and drivers from all different parts of the country in Canada. In fact, 3 regional organizations, the American Speed Association from right here in the Midwest. You've got the American Canadian Tour cars from the northeastern United States and Canada. And of course, you've got the good old boys from down south from All Pro.
Absolutely a collection of among the very finest stock car drivers ever assembled in any single racetrack. Today, the challenge they face is the Queen City Speedway outside Cincinnati. It's a semi-banked half-mile track, a marked contrast from the first race of the Stock Car Connection, which took place on the tri-oval, 1 mile almost racetrack outside Montreal, Quebec, Steve. So they've got a whole different setup. The day also much, much hotter than it was in Quebec, and the racetrack has a reputation for getting very slippery.
Also, we've got a great variety of makes and models. We've got Camaros and Thunderbirds and Oldsmobiles and Buicks, and all in all, it's just an ideal format for short track stock car fans.
Well, they're rolling out onto the racetrack. That is the pole sitter, Bobby Dodder's Ford Thunderbird. He'll lead him to the green flag. We'll be back for the start at Cincinnati right after this. This is part of the campus of Xavier University here in Cincinnati, and that statue, well, that's D'Artagnan, the 4th of the 3 Musketeers of the famous novel and the movies, and a great swordsman, perhaps the greatest swordsman of the Musketeers, Steve. He dueled with a rapier. Today, we're going to see some guys dueling with substantially more lethal weapons than that.
Well, here's a guy that could have been one of the 3 Musketeers. He could just turn that flag into a sword. Here is the traditional cross of the Stock Car Connection organization in front of the fans. And, you know, they originally announced their Great American Challenge Series as being 6 races. We're covering 3. But one has changed a little bit, and that was the Birmingham, Alabama event. That's an old speedway, Brock. You've been there 60 years old, still under renovation. There'll still be a race there, but it'll be under the sanction of All Pro. All the superstars we're seeing today will be down there, but just enough to fill that pit area because it won't accommodate everyone. So that race is on, and it'll be a wonderful event. You just won't pay points in the overall Stock Car Connection Series.
And Steve, of course, we'll be bringing you the final race of the Stock Car Connection at the fabulous Nashville Speedway half mile later this year. That'll be a good one, but I'll tell you what, this is going to be a hot one based on everybody trying to be this man.
Everybody in the pits today agrees just about the best handling car around is the 52 Camaro of Butch Miller. And Butch and crew have been kind enough to let us show you what this chassis looks like. First of all, this is what they call a perimeter car. It's absolutely square. The engine and drivetrain right in the middle of the chassis. There's no offset whatsoever. At the very back of the car, that red-looking box, that has the 22-gallon fuel cell inside. Now, notice here that the rear end is above the frame rails. Only Butch Miller's cars are built this way. I think you'll see more in the future, getting that center of gravity as low as possible. Now, the rear end is a quick change. You'll notice a little pump off the back of the quick change rear end. That, interestingly enough, is the power steering pump. The crew says it's a lot less hassle to run it back here than it is off the engine. Coil-over adjustable shock absorbers, a 3-point pickup on the rear axle. At the top pickup there in the center, you'll see a blue device that is a spring-loaded dampener. These rear ends take a lot of shock in short track racing because the drivers are on and off the gas so much. Also, that big black bar that goes over and attaches to the rear end, that's called the Panhard bar. It keeps the rear rear end from moving around. It's also adjustable for different heights. Now, over on the far side, you'll see the silver tank. That's the oil tank, as low as possible. The battery to the right of the oil tank, again, as low as possible. Even Butch Miller sits in the car as low as possible. And all of these little details, getting that CG lower and lower, have certainly paid off for this driver. He's the winningest driver so far this season.
He sure is, and everybody's out to get him today. Believe me, as the field tours this half-mile oval here, getting ready for the green flag. Local favorite, number 45, David Jackson on the outside. On the pole, Bobby Dotter. As they come off turn 4, the green is out.
That's right, it's GM versus Thunderbird as the two front-row machines slam it in turn number 1, and it is the local warrior here every Saturday night for the last 6 years. Dave Jackson driving one of his first ASA races ever.
And Mark Martin in the number 2 Thunderbird challenging Bobby Dotter for the second spot, and will move way high coming off turn number 4 to take over that spot. And look at 52 Butch Miller and number 88 Mike Eddy on the prowl as well. Eddy a little sideways trying to get underneath Bobby Dotter and will move into the 3rd spot. So Eddy, a legend in ASA competition and one of the hardest chargers ever, is starting to make a move.
Well, we saw that charge he put on last week in the Showdown of Champions, coming from the very last row to ultimately take the 2nd spot. But that was only a 50-lap race. The man had to be in a hurry. Here, as Bobby Dotter told me, you may have to pace yourself a little more. 300 laps.
Right, there will be at least 2 pit stops for each one of these cars, and perhaps more, as we watch Mark Martin in that number 2 Thunderbird move right up on the bumper of Dave Jackson. And here's the race for 11th. That's number 31 Oldsmobile of Steve Grissom, an all-pro star, diving underneath Kent Stauffer. Now remember, Steve crashed in the Showdown of Champions last week, but of course they repaired that car, and he's in the thick of it now.
Indeed he is. Steve Grissom, a burly youngster, his father an auto dealer down south. They're real serious about their all-pro, and now they're Stock Car Connection Racing. A young man who would like to make a career as a stock car driver around this country. You know, there's another great battle right here for the 4th spot. It is Ford versus Chevrolet on the outside as Bobby Dotter's red and white Thunderbird. On the inside, the 52 Camaro of Butch Miller, and Miller outhandles another one, would appear, Brock.
Well, Miller, what can you say about him? He just sticks down low. The car seems to handle absolutely flawlessly as we watch that struggle for the lead. Martin trying to get underneath Dave Jackson, had a shot at him, and Eddy moves up in to challenge Mark Martin for the number 2 spot. So Eddy down low, almost a 3-groove racetrack being formed up here with the number 45 Buick of Dave Jackson. There goes Martin trying to tuck underneath him, and right in behind him is the 88 car. Mike Eddy, a spin in turn 4, Steve.
Right, Brock. Treacherous turn number 4 has claimed 1, 2, possibly 3 victims. The 1X car, that's Gardner Levitt. Well, actually, he may have got away from all of this. The 51 car definitely was some damage. Dennis Vogel, and badly wounded the 77 yellow machine of Tim Olson down low on the racetrack. But everybody else manages to thread their way around it. Obviously, the yellow lights and yellow flags are out all around this half-mile speedway. Oh, boy, there is some real damage to the right front corner of the 51 car driven by Dennis Vogel. But, you know, that is not metal. These cars are all fiberglass bodies and panels. Many cases before a race is over in this kind of competition, you'll see almost a nude race car running around out there. So it's not metal that they have to try to pound out in the pits. Let's look again at it, Brock.
All right, this is turn number 4 here at the Queen City Speedway. There you see the yellow car, the number 77 car of Tim Olson, tangling with Vogel. That's where the damage is sustained on Vogel. And then Vogel gets up against Tom Harrington in the number 1 Camaro coming right at you. Harrington survives. Vogel and Olson both victimized. Now we're going to see, there is Olson's car, a lot of front end damage on it, but it looks like the front suspension's fairly straight, Steve. They may be able to keep that car going. There goes Gardner Levitt in the 1X car. He's back on the racetrack. We're under yellow now. I thought maybe we might see some of the leaders dive into the pits to change the stagger and whatever, but not so. They're staying out. Dennis Vogel in. He'll probably be through for the day. The race has barely started already. We've got casualties.
The pace car exiting Queen City Speedway. The green flag will be out momentarily for the continuation of the Cincinnati 300. I'm Steve Evans along with Brock Yates, and on the point is the local hero, lives just a few miles from the track. That is the bright orange Camaro number 45 of Dave Jackson.
Dave Jackson takes the lead. Mark Martin right behind him. Mike Eddy in third. and Butch Miller in the 4th spot. Bobby Dotter, the man who started on the pole, has faded back to 5th. Although at this point, Steve, it may be he's just trying to conserve some rubber. And look at this. Mark Martin begins to challenge Dave Jackson.
Yeah, Martin is not conserving anything. Down to that low line, Jackson slid just a little bit high, and that could be a fatal mistake as far as continuing to lead this race. But look at him battle back. This guy, the first time really in a V8 car on his home track. He's never handled this much power here, and it might be a little tricky for him.
Well, this racetrack will accommodate 2 grooves, but not right now because Mark Martin tucks into the lead here. And now Mike Eddy begins to challenge Jackson as well.
Jackson is going to have to stay down low if he's to keep all these other drivers from picking on him, Brock. Right there, he gets up high. Now let's see if Eddie can get down low going to turn number 1. That's a favorite place to pass here.
It sure is, and we know Eddie can do it if he gets a shot at it. There's the race for 6th. Ted Musgrave, 97. Dick Trickle, 99. The 58 car, Joe Brown. And behind him, the 31 car of Steve Grissom.
And you'll remember, Brock, the 97 car, Ted Musgrave, he's never in too big a hurry the opening lap. We saw him in Santa Ana. In fact, we didn't see him till the end of the race, and there he was, finishing a strong 2nd place.
Oh, yeah, he is a very tough competitor. Right behind him, though, one of the toughest of all, that, of course, Dick Trickle in the 99 car. The race for the lead. Here is Eddie challenging low, diving down underneath Dave Jackson, and right behind him, tucking in there in that white Camaro, Butch Miller. So both Miller and Eddie are challenging for the 2nd spot.
And look at this. Butch Miller has got Eddie pushed down low. Miller's car, we talked about its superior handling earlier, and there you see it. Out in front, the Thunderbird of Mark Martin. You see the brown tone car, then the orange Buick, that's Jackson. And here comes Butch Miller with Mike Eddy right behind him. Miller not wasting any time going after Jackson.
Well, there is definitely a plan in mind for Butch Miller, and that is to get out front as quickly as he possibly can. And right now, though, Jackson is hanging on pretty good. He fell back there a little bit, but now he seems to have kind of gotten his foot back in it because he is holding off Butch Miller pretty effectively, and Mike Eddy has fallen well back.
Yes, he has, and it's awfully early for that green car to lose any of its strength. Now, trying on the inside is Butch Miller, but Dave Jackson hangs right in there. Jackson, apparently, Brock has found a groove that he likes to run on this racetrack, and it's almost a middle groove to the turns.
Well, there you see Miller get right alongside him, but that high groove works. You'll notice that Jackson gives way in the center of the corners, and it looks as if Butch can get him as they go down into the entry of the corner, but then that high groove tends to work pretty well as you come off the corner. But slowly but surely, Butch Miller is nibbling away, and it doesn't look as if Jackson's going to be able to hold him off for more than a few more laps at the most.
If you watch the nose of these cars very carefully throughout this race, you can start to tell where the drivers get off the throttle to negotiate the turns. This is not a racetrack that you can drive with the throttle on all the way around. You've got to get off it. In some cases, you've got to get on the brakes as well. But that is Miller inside, looking to make it 2 in a row in stock car connection action. As we said before, he won the Molson race a few weeks ago up in Quebec and looks stronger today. But Jackson, his first ever season in a high-powered stock car, boy, he may have some real natural talent.
Well, he just knocked off Miller, and as a lap, Gardner Levitt has retaken the 2nd spot. It looked almost inevitable there for a couple of laps that Miller was going to get by him, but that little bit of a falter that maybe Butch had to make when he came up on Gardner Levitt permitted Dave to get back into the 2nd spot. Terrific battle between these two drivers.
And a great battle for the 5th spot. The 97 car of Ted Musgrave on the inside appears to be taking command of 5th position over the pole sitter, Bobby Dotter. And just behind them, that is the battle for the 7th spot between 99 Dick Trickle and 36 Joe Shear.
And Joe Shear has moved by Trickle pretty effectively. I would imagine you're going to see Trickle make some radical tire changes whenever they get a yellow. There's your race for 2nd again. Dave Jackson has pulled out about a car length on Butch Miller. That's a surprise. Miller had moved right up alongside him and appeared to be able to take over that 2nd spot, but not so now. In fact, Miller is falling back a little bit, Steve.
You know, a race of this distance, too, Brock, requires normally only 2, maybe 3 pit stops. Some of these drivers told me they'll make as many as 5 or 6, depending on yellow, to get that stagger set up, to keep the tires tires just right on the car, even though they're not worn out. And we've got a spin. The youngest driver in the field, in fact, in stock car racing at just 16, Glenn Allen Jr. has spun that 66 car in almost identical, the same fashion he did in the qualifier last week. He hasn't hit anything, not any other cars. Not the, whoa, look out, Glenn, boy, don't take out the leader. Mark Martin, he saw him coming. Everybody knew what they were doing there.
Well, let's take a look at exactly what happened. That is Glenn Allen Jr. on the right side of your screen. All alone, just got into turn number 4 a little bit hot and looped it around. Got on the brakes, so he didn't hit anything, but he brings out the caution flag that I think is going to cause some changes here in the standings. I think we're going to see some pit stops.
Oh, I guarantee that, particularly Mike Eddy. Yes, in fact, there goes Butch Miller, Mike Eddy, Mark Martin, Bobby Dotter. It looks like they're all headed to the pits.
And it'll be interesting to see who changes what tires. The right side tires look like for Mike Eddy. Those are the rears that are being changed on Butch Miller's 52. So there's a crewman lifting up a little bit of the bodywork. As you can see, the right sides go on Mike Eddy's car. Only 2 tires per pit stop are permitted in this kind of competition, so you can't change all 4. Mark Martin gets right side tires in the number 2 Thunderbird.
Now, you can bet on Butch Miller's car, that left rear tire was not worn out. What they're trying to do is get the sizes just right. They're on a smaller tire on the left and the right. They're trying to get the setup, the stagger just right, and that's where Miller's crew shines, is in the overall chassis and tire combination. He'll tell you every time this car is responsible as much as I am for winning these races.
So we've got Dave Jackson in the lead. Ted Musgrave moves into the 2nd spot. Joe Shear, Bobby Gill, Buddy Schrock in the top 5. Now those guys have not yet stopped. That's the reason for those standings.
Let's see if I can raise Butch Miller on the radio.
Butch Miller, this is Steve Evans, Diamond P Sports. Go ahead, Steve. Well, Butch, how does the pace of this race suit you so far?
Well, the car got much looser than we ever expected it to. And it was almost impossible to step on the gas pedal. The only one that seemed to be able to step on the gas right at the beginning was Mark Martin. And Dave Jackson sure is hooked up. You might see a lot from him.
You two were having a heck of a battle for that 2nd spot. Boy, he looks awfully good for a rookie, first time in a high-powered car.
He sure is. We're going to go racing this lap, so I'm going to let you go.
Okay, Butch has seen the pace car go off down onto the apron as they head down into turn number 3. The 71 car will lead it. That is John Wilson, but he is a lap car. The fast guys have all made their pit stops, so the standings are going to be jumbled for a while, Steve.
Well, the leader now will be the 45 car of Dave Jackson, but only because he did not pit. And I really have to wonder about that, Brock. If maybe they're thinking, well, let's get the lead and try to build up as much as we can, and maybe we'll catch another yellow. The interesting strategy, if that's what it is at all.
Well, you've got to give them some benefit of the doubt because they are such veterans here at Queen City. So it may be that Dave Jackson and his crew have made the right decision. But on the other hand, Eddie, Miller, Trickle, all the other quick guys, Mark Martin, have all made those stops. That is the number 48 Buick of Robbie Crouch racing with Harold Fair in the 81 car in the battle for 6th spot. Now, Robbie Crouch is, as we said earlier, one of the finest drivers in the ACT Tour, just starting to learn to set up in these brand new automobiles. But I will guarantee you, by the time we get to Nashville, Crouch is going to be running with a leader.
He'll be running with guys like Mike Eddy. In fact, he's running a little bit ahead of Mike Eddy right now. The green number 88 car, and Eddy just kind of hunting around. Now we see Butch Miller making up for the time he lost on his pit stop. Miller on the move again.
All right, there is the green number 88, that distinctive lime green automobile of Buick of Mike Eddy, moving past Robbie Crouch in the 48 car, and Eddy starting to make his charge back toward the front. Remember, we saw him make a good, strong move earlier in the going, and then make his pit stop to change the right side tire.
Well, it appears that Butch Miller is on the gas now as he has just moved right around there. You see it around Robbie Crouch into that 7th spot.
So as the field begins to reorder itself after that caution flag and pit stop, we'll be back with more of the Stock Car Connection Cincinnati 300.
Well, Well, every major city in the United States has its train depot, but few of them can match Union Station in Cincinnati for architectural excellence. It's just a beautiful building, wonderfully kept, and you can still get the Amtrak to all 4 points of the compass from Union Station, and you can get a lot of good short track stock car action at Queen City Speedway. And we have had a caution flag while we were away, and look at them come into the pits. Brock, a swarm of them.
Right, Joey Shearer, Robbie Crouch among them as we see the cause. That is once again Glenn Allen Jr. in the 66, bouncing it off the pit fence as he came off turn 4, down the front straightaway, lost control and backed it into the wall there. That is the reason for bringing out the caution. And I gotta say, Steve, maybe Glenn needs a little more seasoning before he comes up with the big boys.
You know, the problem is, Brock, they won't allow him to race here in the regular Saturday night programs because he's too young. It's a different insurance program. You can only race with the ASA, so he really can't go out as Dave Jackson has done all these years. And here comes Mike Eddy. He's out of the pits. He is back in the 13th spot now, but if he's got the stagger and the setup, who knows? He could move up quickly.
Well, this is the second stop for Mike, so he's obviously not happy with the way that car is handling. Now, the big news is the fact that Dave Jackson has not yet stopped in 2 cautions. Gill hasn't either, nor has Schrock. Miller has made his stop. He didn't stop this time around, but he is theoretically in a position to attack the leader as soon as we go to green. That is Dave Jackson's pit crew. They got the tires out already, Steve, but they don't choose to put them up yet.
That's right, and this is a new crew. The first time they have worked together with Dave Jackson. They're having radio communication problems. They can hear Dave, but he cannot hear his crew chief.
Well, the pace car is getting ready to ease down onto the apron as Dave Jackson in the 45 leads them down through turn 3 and 4, and the green is out. Jackson is on the throttle.
Jackson got a beautiful start. He didn't anticipate the flag, but he was right on it. And coming out of turn number 2 right now, the orange number 45 Buick, that is Dave Jackson. He is the leader. Just behind him, all-pro driver in car number 4, that is Bobby Gill.
Well, Bobby Gill doing a good job. He is one of the best from the all-pro circuit, but the car to watch right now is that white Camaro right behind Gill, number 52, Butch Miller. He, remember now, has made a stop and has presumably the proper setup, and he's going to start making his move. Behind him is the brown number 2 Thunderbird of Mark Martin, who, remember, led it for a little bit, and Martin definitely is going to be a factor in this race as it unfolds.
Well, Butch Miller has already moved up into 3rd and trying to get into 4th just behind him. On the outside, there is the number 2 Thunderbird. So that, of course, is Mark Martin, and here he's trying to move around number 35 Buddy Schrock for that 4th spot, and he has not quite done it yet. Now he will, coming down the front straightaway.
So Mark Martin and Butch Miller now begin to establish or reestablish the order in this race. Miller, again, moving in behind Dave Jackson, but Jackson, somewhere along the line, has got to make a stop. Unless that setup is so perfect, Steve, he's getting excellent tire wear. I don't think that's probably the case.
No, I agree with you. Bobby Gill tenaciously in that 4 car, hanging on to 3rd place. But Mark Martin, the number 2 Thunderbird, just outside. And Martin appears to have more muscle and maybe a little more handling. The rules allow the Thunderbird to be the lightest cars of them all at 2,800 pounds, as much as 75 pounds lighter than some of the GM cars. Plus, the engine is heavier, so they've got a rule that allows them to push the motor back. They handle terrifically. Here's the race for the lead. The 52 car, the Camaro, Butch Miller on the inside. On the outside is Dave Jackson. One thing we know for sure, Miller has got better rubber on his car than Jackson does because Miller made a stop, and that may be a real deciding factor here.
But Jackson not giving up by any means. Hung it out right through turn 1 and 2, but simply doesn't have the traction, I would say, to hang on to Butch Miller with that fresh rear rubber on the 52 car. So Dave Jackson has no choice but to give way and fall back to 2nd place. Now his problem is the number 2 Thunderbird of Mark Martin, who begins to eat away at his advantage. So Dave Jackson bracketed now by the 2 guys that are probably going to be major factors in this event for a while. That's the 99 car of Dick Trickle. He is in a battle with the 35 car of Buddy Schrock, trying to move ahead of him into the 5th spot. Trickle high on the outside, obviously handling a little better than Buddy, but Buddy showing good horsepower down that straightaway. Around turn 3 and 4 they come. Schrock down low will maybe take that 5th spot back. Can Trickle do it? That's Lacey, his favorite all Camaro, the number 99 car. Everybody in short track racing recognizes, believe me, one of the most famous cars ever.
you think this is a glamorous way to earn a living? I guess in some ways it could be. Dick Trickle runs 80 races a year. Now, there's only 52 weekends, right? That means they're racing on Tuesdays and Wednesdays and Thursdays sometimes. Tremendous travel, and we're not talking Learjets, we're talking old trucks.
You got it. As we watch Buddy Schrock continue to hold off Dick Trickle. The white number 4, that's Bobby Gill's car. He's sitting in the 4th spot, just in front of the 35 car. So we've got Trickle, who's trying to get around this man, Buddy Schrock, who's doing a fine job. Buddy, though, of course, facing a pit stop. But right now, that car is working just fine. I'm sure Buddy is more than happy with the way it's behaving.
And so far, this half-mile racetrack seems to be providing the necessary grip. Occasionally, in fact, quite often here, as the race goes on, it'll get a little slippery, and you can't do things you could do earlier. Here's the race for 9th on the inside. The always steady 10 Musgrave, the number 97 car, is inside the 88 car, Mike Getty. The green machine is Eddie.
Right, as Eddie rides high. Behind him, the blue 98 of Jody Ridley, and right behind him, the 79 car of Bobby Dotter, which, remember, Steve, started on the pole. All right, here's your race for second. The orange number 45, Dave Jackson, local favorite. Behind track record holder in a larger engine car, Mark Martin in the number 2 Thunderbird. These two guys have been going at it for a number of laps now, and Jackson successfully holding them off at this point, Steve.
That's right, and Jackson still running on the tires he started the race with, which may account, Rock, for why he's not able to hug down low on the line. As they get into traffic, you can see the shredded number 77 car from that first accident of the day. That's Tim Olson. Around him, sweep Jackson. And look at this, coming down low. Jackson split up high. Maybe those tires are really becoming a factor now, because Mark Martin, the number 2 Thunderbird, has gotten around cleanly.
Well, there's no question that Jackson got way, way wide in that corner, which permitted Mark Martin to just drive right past him. So Martin's car obviously working better now than Jackson. Jackson came perilously close to losing it at that point, Steve. He got it way up near the fence and way out of the groove.
And he doesn't dare pit for tires on a green flag. That'd just kill him as far as any chance for a victory is concerned. The race for the 4th position, well, that's between all pros down at number 4, Bobby Gill, the white car. Just behind him, 35, Buddy Schrock from ASA. Look at Schrock trying to get down underneath him. And just behind Schrock, that is Dick Trickle, also moving into the fray.
The 09 car, that is Kevin LePage. He is a lap car, so he is not a factor, although he can be if he gets in somebody's way. But right now, it's, yeah, Schrock gets by him, and now the chore is for Trickle to get by LePage. Trickle down there in the 99 car, right behind Schrock. So this is a good battle here for the 4th spot. There is Trickle, 99, ducking underneath Kevin LePage, and there is Schrock trying to get underneath number 4, Bobby Gill. Schrock's got the good low line, but in so many cases, we've seen that high line work, Steve. We've seen guys be able to run 2 by 2, side by side, all the way around this Queen City half mile. And the high line, which you might think would be a disadvantage, isn't.
No, that's right. This just offers tremendous racing action. And here, that's typical of it. Number 4, Bobby Gill outside, inside, running a totally different line, but they stay fender to fender. Buddy Schrock in 35. This is the race for the 4th position. It looks like Schrock is taking control until he loses it a little bit.
Right. And Bobby Gill hangs right on. There's Schrock down low, Bobby Gill up high. Little tire smoke as they're getting tremendous traction here on this half mile. Look at that, side by side racing all the way around this track. Schrock a little loose, coming off turn number 4, but he holds on to maintain his position. But, oh, look at that. That bobble may have cost him more than we recognize. Bobby Gill takes over the 4th spot for the time being. We'll be back with more from Cincinnati after this.
Well, the thunder's booming, the lightning's cracking, and occasionally a drop of rain, but not enough to slow down the pace of the Cincinnati 300. I'm Steve Evans, along with Brock Yates, and Butch Miller, to the surprise of nobody, really, is leading this thing, the number 52 Camaro. This is the 2nd stock car connection event. Butch looking to make it 2 in a row.
Oh, hello, Steve. Look at this number 2 car, Mark Martin. He has moved right up on the rear bumper of Butch Miller and beginning to make himself a serious factor now. But don't forget, Dave Jackson back in 3rd place, as well as Bobby Gill and Buddy Schrock, who round out the top 5, have yet to make a stop. They've got to be praying for a caution flag, Steve.
Oh, absolutely. The only good thing about pitting on drainage, you can put on 4 tires, but the time you lose, it's hardly worth doing that.
Oh, absolutely. As they come down the front straightaway, there is Butch Miller riding a high groove. Right down low is the brown number 2 of Mark Martin. And look at that, Martin squirts by. Steve, it looks as if they both got up against the fence, and Butch Miller had no choice but to back out of it a little bit.
That's right. I think Mark Martin, who's getting a little loosey-goosey himself there, should thank Butch Miller for doing that. Otherwise, I think we'd have some fiberglass of multi-colors all over the racetrack. So Butch Miller is going to let Mark Martin have the lead here, and discretion there, definitely the better part of valor.
Oh, no question about it. As this race for 4th continues, in the 0 car of Tom Jones, a high up there on the outside has moved in to challenge Buddy Schrock. There is Tom Jones. Remember, we saw him run 3rd, a very strong 3rd at San Air in that black and silver 0 of his, the 0 hero they like to call him, as he challenges Bobby Gill, the all-pro star from way down south in Dixie, in that pretty white number 4 automobile. So we got a good race for the 4th spot.
And here comes our leader, Mark Martin, the 2 car. Miller has pulled up 52. They're getting into all this lap traffic now. And whoa, he just about gets hit by Jody Ridley. Mark Martin in the 2 car. Now he dives down low, just in front of Butch Miller. Now Miller is going to have to contend with that blue Thunderbird as well, trying to ease his way by that, not get in trouble. This is when you got to calm down and say easy now.
Right. Hey, Martin spins. The leader is spinning down the back straightaway. He keeps it off the fence, kicks it into reverse gear, and gets back underway. What a good recovery on the part of Mark Martin, but a very costly error on the part of the veteran.
That was just a beautiful job of driving. Certainly he made a minor error in losing the car, but he more than made up for that in some brilliant race car driving. And you talk about composure. He was ready to grab reverse the instant that car came to a stop. Now let's go to the Mark Martin School of Stock Car Driving, Brock.
Right. You talk about rush hour traffic. Here it is. And Martin, coming off turn number 2, just gets wide and gets it sideways. Now, you said composure. Absolutely. Remember now, he turns into the slide, keeps the car off the fence, does not stall the engine. So he had his foot on the clutch and his foot on the brake, and as you say, kicked it into reverse gear. That's got a lockout on it, so it took him a couple of seconds to get back underway. Into the pits comes the current leader, Butch Miller.
And this is a fine crew. They've been working together for almost 5 years now. They're paying attention to the right side of the car, and no surprise here, the 45 car making his first pit stop of the day. As I said before, this is a new crew. They have not worked together before. These guys, well, they're just a well-choreographed act. And Butch Miller is already out of the pit area. And he goes back out onto the racetrack with brand new right side rubber. Now, still in the pits and up on the jack is Dave Jackson's car, and he's got himself kind of boxed in there. This racetrack is really not set up for pit stops. It's kind of a chaotic situation. And you can see here Dave Jackson having to back up the crew. Now he goes forward. Now, you can see there's cars all around him. They did get right rubber. They got some fuel in the car, and finally, out of the pit area goes Dave Jackson, but almost took one of his guys along with him. Now, usually a car that spins will come in for tires because they've been flat spotted, not Mark Martin. He's still out there in the 11th spot. Right now, let's go to the pits with Brock and Butch Miller's crew chief, Kevin Hamlin.
Kevin, that sounded to me like it was a very advantageous yellow that looked like his tires were starting to go away on him.
Well, the car was loose, but Martin was just about as loose, and out it just soon they stayed green for a little longer and tried to put a few guys a lap down.
So what did you do? You just do any other chassis adjustments other than tires?
We tried to tighten the car up with the tires, and that's it right now.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, and after all of this, the leaderboard changes significantly. Tom Jones, a 0 car, now leads it, followed by Kenny Wallace in the 2nd place for the first time. Butch Miller, even though he stopped, has still only been pushed back into the 3rd position. Ted Musgrave is now running 4th, and the green flag is coming out one more time in the Cincinnati 300.
And it's barely out, Steve, before number 52, Butch Miller, blows past Kenny Wallace in the yellow 36 to take over the 2nd spot. But leading it right now, though, continues to be Tom Jones. There's 52. Butch Miller, having come in, made a tire change, and back underway. And you can be sure that that car is hooked up even better than it was before.
And don't be surprised if Butch Miller doesn't come in the pits every opportunity whenever it's yellow to, as his crewman said, Kevin Hamlin, tighten that car up continually, get it tighter and tighter as the racetrack gets greasier and greasier. But there is Butch Miller running in the second spot, trying to hunt down that 0 car of Tom Jones.
Steve, the number 22 blue car of Ken Lund and 81 Harold Fair right behind Miller there. They're both lap cars, so Harold and Ken Lund are not in it at this particular moment, and Butch Miller has himself a clear racetrack. And look at this, Kenny Lund, a lap car. Right next to him is Kenny Wallace. Down low is Dick Trickle. There's Musgrave up high, and in the green car, Mike Eddy in the 88. Eddy in 6th spot. That overall is a race for 3rd place with Kenny Wallace holding on to it right now, but Trickle and Musgrave challenging, and Mike Eddy moving up as well. So there's a blanket over those 4 cars.
And Dick Trickle, the number 99 car, he has now taken over the 4th position. Just incredible racing, and now he's moving on 3rd spot. Boy, what award this is. Butch Miller, 52, just retook the lead. Tom Jones in the 0 car, and the 2 of them are putting some distance between themselves and 3rd place.
Right, and back there in 3rd place is Dick Trickle in the 99. Right behind him, Mike Eddy is gotten by Kenny Wallace. Musgrave in the 97 right behind him. So slowly, the heavy hitters in ASA are beginning to dominate this event. We've got them in the top 6 spots right now. There is the number 99 car of Dick Trickle, 88 Eddy. They've run against each other, on top of each other, around each other for these many years. They know exactly what each other can do. Eddy is going to try Trickle on the outside. It'll be interesting to see if he can make that work. Trickle down low, down into turn number 1. Mike up high. This is a 2-group racetrack. It's theoretically possible, but Trickle isn't going to let it happen right now. Trickle in 3rd spot. Remember now, he has moved steadily up toward the leaders, as has Mike Eddy. Boy, we got some racing left here in the Cincinnati 300. Stick with us.
Next time you visit Queen City Speedway, take a few minutes out of your day and drive just a few miles to Sharon-Wood Village, a wonderful historical park where among many structures you'll find this, the Kemper House. It was built in the very early 1800s and was the home of the first Presbyterian minister in the area. Well, right now, ministering to the competition is Butch Miller in the number 52 Camaro. He's leading here at the Cincinnati 300.
And Steve, we've got a bunch of ASA hot shoes right on his tail. Jones, Eddy, Trickle, and Musgrave round out the top 5, and I'll tell you what, don't forget the number 2 car back there in the 6th spot. It's a fellow named Mark Martin. But right now, Tom Jones better pay attention because he's got Mike Eddy all over his rear bumper, and Eddy appears to be ready to challenge for that 2nd spot, Steve.
And look, we've still got a good 2-group racetrack here as they run side by side. Ted Musgrave told you earlier about before the race that if the sun stayed away, we'd have a 2-group track, and that's exactly what's happening. The only problem is the clouds are so heavy, we could get some rain out of the deal. But right now, these guys couldn't ask for a better racing surface.
No, absolutely not. It's perfect right now as we watch Eddy drive right by Tom Jones, and now Dick Trickle takes up the challenge and begins to try Tom Jones down low. So Trickle in the 99 ready to try to move into that 3rd spot as Mike Eddy takes over 2nd. Up ahead of him, of course, Butch Miller moving up. Now Eddy driving underneath Harold Fair. He's a lap car. There's the 0 car of Tom Jones. And Eddy driving, as always, so aggressively. And he moves underneath Harold Fair, who lets him by. Harold, a real veteran of ASA competition. Not running very well here today, but always in the past up among the leaders. But he's a savvy enough veteran, so he's not going to hold up anybody.
Well, Dick Trickle just blew right by Tom Jones in the 0 car to take over the 3rd position. And this was a new car. It started the season in San Air just a few weeks ago. And Dick has been trying all kinds of things with the machine, trying to get it handled just a little bit better. He's got plenty of horsepower. Handling has been his problem. So he's been making some changes to the car and testing it whenever he can. And he's particularly pleased with one change that I took a look at earlier.
At Montreal, Dick Trickle's number 99 car started the race with brand new brakes all the way around. Well before the end of the race, the front brakes were completely worn out, while the rear brakes were just fine. The reason being that the way this car likes to handle, they have to direct 80% of the braking effort towards the front. Any more than that on the rear, and the rear end wants to bind up in its mountings, causing the car to not handle properly. Well, they cannot continue to live with that. So let me show you what they're experimenting with here. Previously, the brake caliper, that's this right here, was mounted solidly to the axle. Anytime the brakes were applied, well, the rear end reacted in its mountings. What they've done now, and you can see here, this is loose. It's free floating. Okay, now what keeps this caliper from moving around is this brace that is now directed to the frame. So the rear end really is totally unaware now that it has a brake attached on either side. So Dick is finding that the brake bias, which is adjustable inside the car, can now be as much as 50-50, which means that he may not run out of brakes here at Queen City.
Well, right now he's going to need more than brakes, Steve, because the number 2 Thunderbird of Mark Martin has moved right up on Trickle and is beginning to challenge him for that 3rd spot. So Dick has his hands full. Remember, we saw Mark Martin take a giant spin down the back straightaway and recover, and he's still running on the same rubber. But boy, I'll tell you what, it's working just fine for him.
Well, Brock, one reason I think he's able to run on the same rubber is these are pretty hard compound racing tires. Everybody runs exactly the same compound from Goodyear, and the Stock Car Connection has deemed that it'd be a hard tire to try to cut down on the tire bill. So with softer racing tires, you might see in other series, they would have flat spotted. These apparently did not.
Well, they're working just fine at this point because Mark Martin has moved by Dick Trickle to take over that 3rd spot and is driving away from him. And right now, Tom Jones is challenging Trickle as well. So there is Mark Martin in the 2, moving in on Mike Eddy, who's sitting, of course, in the 2nd spot. The 91 car up front is Beaver Dragon. He's a lapped automobile, not a factor here. Buddy Schrock, Schrock blows one right down the front straightaway. Buddy Schrock pops a motor. He is going to be out of it, and I would imagine that'll bring out a caution. They're going to check this racetrack to make sure it isn't covered with oil.
That's right, Brock. The caution lights have already coming on. The driver's just now starting to react to them and telling everybody that he knows where he has to go, and that's the pits, where our leader is coming as well. Here is number 52, Butch Miller. I said before, if he sees any going to be yellow, he's going to come in and just improve the handling of this car. As the racetrack changes, he changes the car. And here is Mark Martin is in with that Thunderbird. Well, we knew he needed some tires.
Yeah, he takes right side. This might be expected. They're the ones that took the brunt of that spin. There is Tom Jones in the 0 car. Bobby Gill, 52. Mark Martin underway, and he almost takes a floor jack with him. There goes one of his crewmen out there to drag it out of the way as Mike Eddy wails past, getting out of the racetrack as well. 2 fast stops. There goes Mark Martin. He's trying to get out. This is the jam up in the pits as we've seen before. Martin lights the rear tires up and races Joey Shear as there's a very narrow pit exit here. They're going to have trouble jamming through on their way out.
Well, after looking at this madhouse, Butch Miller has got to be glad his pit was way down on the end. In fact, right now, things have calmed down a little bit. Let's see if I can't race Butch Miller on the radio.
Butch Miller, Steve Evans again, Diamond P Sports.
Go ahead, Steve.
How is your car handling now?
It's still a little bit loose. We had to change rear tires again. We don't seem to be able to keep the back stagger where it belongs.
Okay, we'll continue the safe trip.
So there you heard it. He's having some tire problems, but the man in the 52 car sitting in 2nd spot continues to dominate this race here in the Cincinnati 300.
Well, the green flag is back out here at the Cincinnati 300, but one car has some big problems. It's not mechanical, it's driver. The driver of the 91 car, Beaver Dragon from up in Vermont, he says the heat is getting to him. He's not used to racing under these kind of temperatures, so Jamie Obey will get in the car to relieve him. Now, also contributing to this problem, the exhaust system they run on this car, Brock, is a little different and tends to radiate more heat up through the floorboards of the car. Beaver Dragon is not a comfortable man.
Well, Beaver's been in this business for 31 years. He's been racing around the United States. He's not as young as he used to be. He's a tough man, but it may be that the heat and combination of that exhaust system really put it to him. Beaver glad to get out of that race car, and as you well know, that place inside those cockpits can really get steamy.
Well, Butch Miller pitted, and that gave the lead to number 84, Bob Seneca. But Miller had such a good stop that he fell back only to the second spot. And here we can see Mike Eddy, number 88, tangling with Miller again. These two just love to race each other.
Oh, well, there are three of the greats in the ASA. In fact, if you put Trickle in there, you probably have the four most successful drivers in the history of that particular racing association. As Miller now tries to drive around Bob Seneca. Can't make it work on the high side. Let's see what he does as they go down the back straight into turn number 3. There's Eddy moving right in on the rear of 52 Butch Miller. 3 guys under a blanket. 3 professionals, 3 of the best short track jockeys in the country. I don't know, Steve. What do you think? Can Seneca hold him off?
I don't think he can, Brock, mainly due to the rubber and the excellent handling capabilities. Look at Eddy trying to squeeze between the two of them. Eddy will go for any daylight. If it's a foot wide, he'll try to put a 4-foot car through it. And, you know, you mentioned if we put Trickle in that group. Well, Trickle may put himself in there because he's moving up.
He is. Trickle back there out of our picture right now. But the big news is that Butch Miller and Mike Eddy are now moving past Bob Seneca. Seneca paying the price now for probably not making that stop for fresh rubber. Your 2 leaders, Eddy and Miller, both on fresh rubber, and that is the advantage right now. Butch Miller, though, let's see. He's got a clear racetrack ahead of him. They're going to race head-to-head. Let's see if he can hold off Mike Eddy.
And there is Dick Trickle starting to move up here, the black and silver car, the 99 car. And there went Ted Musgrave past the 84 car of Bob Seneca. Remember what I said about Musgrave? As the race wears on, he becomes more of a player every time we've seen him.
Absolutely. Musgrave stays out of trouble, runs very hard, but doesn't overextend that automobile at the opening stages of these races, and that begins to pay off for him now. There's Trickle trying to get by Seneca. Trickle and Seneca, those guys have raced each other since time immemorial, it seems, on the short tracks of the Midwest.
That's right, and it is the battle for 4th position right now between the 2 of them. And I've said it so many times, well, they were side by side. Look at Trickle assert himself. Just nailed that throttle, drove it deeper into the turn than he has been. That got him 4th. And here is Mark Martin, the Thunderbird number 2, has fallen back to the 6th spot.
And right behind him, the 0 car, Tom Jones. So those guys have been players all day long, and I'm sure that as the pit stops continue to unfold, we'll see them back up among the leaders. Right now, Mark Martin is in 6th. Remember, he was in the lead. Spot fell back. Here comes the race for 3rd, and Trickle is challenging Eddy. In fact, he's by Eddy. Let's see if it'll work, if he can make it stick. But right, yes, he has moved past Mike Eddy. So Trickle suddenly becomes a major factor in this race, and here comes Mark Martin by Mike Eddy as well. Eddy chops him down the back straightaway, doesn't let him by, but it's apparent now that Eddy is falling off the pace. There goes Martin underneath him, and Seneca re-challenging as well. So Mike Eddy, who has been up among the leaders all day long, trying to hang on, but is losing the edge and is falling way, way back. And now let's go to Steve, who's in Mike Eddy's pit.
Well, the tail of the stopwatch in the 88 pits is that Mike Eddy has been slowing down consistently lap after lap. Dick, do you have any idea what's wrong with the car? Is Mike saying anything?
Yeah, Mike's doing the best he can. We swapped the right side tires in the second stop, and we didn't swap the inside.
Okay, thank you.
So Mike Eddy paying the price for a bad choice on the tires during that last stop. So we'll see what happens. He's hoping for a caution, that's for sure. As Mark Martin goes high, wide, and handsome to go around Dick Trickle and take over the 3rd spot, Steve.
Well, no question, Brock. Who has the quickest car on this racetrack right now? It's the man in that number 2 Thunderbird, and you can bet that Butch Miller in the 52 car is being informed of that by his crew. Had it not been for that spin earlier, who knows where Mark Martin might be right now.
Well, right now, he is right behind Ted Musgrave, who's riding in the 2nd spot in that 97 car. There he is, showing a little smoke out of the rear. I don't know whether that's just tire smoke, body rubbing or not, but it doesn't look like it. I think Ted Musgrave's got engine problems. And there is Mark Martin right behind him, juking and second, and he will take second. Wow, what a comeback by Mark Martin, and right ahead of Mark Martin is number 52 in the lead. And you've got your 3 lead cars in that picture. There is Martin in the number 2 spot in the number 2 car. Musgrave showing some signs of weakness as Mike Eddy comes into the pits in the 88, Steve.
Well, he was just floundering around out there, Brock. He had to come to the pits and see if the crew couldn't get the stagger and the tire situation back. Now, the importance of tires has been dramatically demonstrated by Mark Martin. As soon as he was able to grab a pit stop under yellow, get some tires, he started making up the ground he lost in the spin. Now, Eddy pitting under green, well, that's going to be darn near impossible.
That's a very, very tough break for Mike Eddy. He had no choice. So really, he was advancing rapidly to the back and literally had to come in. So Mike Eddy, full of fuel with some fresh rubber on the right side, back underway. But look at this race for the lead.
Boy, this one's got the fans on their feet. Ford versus Chevrolet. Martin and Butch Miller, 2 of the biggest names in ASA stock car racing. They are just... Oh, Mark Martin has taken the lead. Incredible.
Drives right by Butch Miller. What a show of strength as they both go by Bobby Dowder, who has had all kinds of problems today. The pole sitter, not a factor. He is a lap down as Martin now has the lead as they move through lap traffic, and Butch Miller trying to get him back. But right now, it's Martin who's the star of the show here at Cincinnati.
Stay with us. We'll be back with more of the Cincinnati 300. What a good race.
Well, the sun's back out here in Cincinnati, and here is Fountain Square, right in the center of the city. And that fountain, well, if you ever saw WKRP, that's the one that opens the show. But right now, back at the Queen City Speedway, we've got a young man from Arkansas who is suddenly dominating this race, Steve.
And also said we have some sunshine, Rock. There was a real threat of rain, but we dodged that bullet. But I'll tell you, trying to dodge the bullet with the number 52 on it right now is Mark Martin in the number 2 Thunderbird. Look at Butch Miller. He is a man possessed here, but the traffic is frustrating him.
Well, Mark Martin is showing all kinds of handling here. He's riding high as Butch Miller goes down low. That's Bob Sedeker in the 84 car, slowing things up a little bit. He's a lap car, and we've got a new leader. Butch Miller has reestablished himself in the lead here as they bounce down the front straightaway. Sedeker hanging right with him, although he is a lap down. Mark Martin trying to find his way through that traffic as Butch Miller now has a clear speedway ahead of him, and that is going to cost Mark Martin some valuable time, Steve Evans.
It is, and Butch Miller is taking advantage of it. Miller driving as hard as he has all day, trying to not see that Thunderbird in his rearview mirror. But look at Martin bounce back. He's already made up 2 or 3 car lengths as soon as he got free of that traffic. I'm saying this is still anybody's race among these 2.
No question about it. There is the 99 of Dick Trickle battling with the 97 of Ted Musgrave. There they are in the 3rd and 4th spot. Now they've got a shot at it, but right now it's a race really between Miller and Mark Martin in the 1-2 spot. Oh, smoke! That is a blown engine on the backside of the racetrack.
And it is the bright blue number 98 Thunderbird of Jody Ridley. Now, considering as hard as these guys race, Brock, this is the only second mechanical failure we've seen as far as the motor is concerned. That's just how reliable these 9-to-1 390 carburetor engines are. In fact, Butch Miller's crew told me that if the engine continues to sing as it has been, they won't even take it apart before the next race. They'll just replace the valve springs. Now, here is the crew of Mark Martin. Are they ready? Indeed, and there is Mark. The yellow is out to clean up the oil from the Jody Ridley engine explosion. Here is Butch Miller, the leader in the pits. Will he be the leader when he leaves the pits?
Well, we'll soon find out because they're both taking on right side rubber. That, of course, is the side to take all the way in a counterclockwise racetrack. Miller underway. Very fast pit stop. A disaster stop for Mark Martin. He's still up on the jack. Frustrated. Oh, does he want to get underway? Now he's got to back up. There's a lot of congestion in Mark's pit area. Oh, a lug nut still not tightened down. Oh, this is a tragedy for Mark Martin, Steve. It's eating up all kinds of time. Finally underway, but at least 10 seconds slower than Butch Miller, maybe more.
And you know, that is not typical of that team. They're really a well-oiled group. I have a feeling here that this kind of unorthodox pit area has a lot to do with a stop going awry as that one did. Well, let's see if an obviously disappointed Mark Martin will talk to us on the radio.
Mark Martin, this is Steve Evans, Diamond P Sports.
Yes, he is bad pit stop may cost us the race. We're going to give it everything we have, though.
I know you will, and I was standing here with my watch running, and I could see the frustration even with your helmet on, but go get him. A great drive so far.
Well, it sure is. Mark Martin has done a fantastic job. It would be a tragedy if that bobble pit stop cost him the race. But right now, Butch Miller has himself what appears to be a very strong lead. Dick Trickle in second. Mark only falling back one spot, even with that disastrous stop.
And without a stop, Dick Trickle has wound his way into that second position. The green flag is out. The closing laps of the Cincinnati 300 lay ahead.
As we watch the 99 car of Dick Trickle take a little bit of a shot at the 52 of Butch Miller, but it doesn't work as we watch a lap car, Claude Leclerc, fall back.
Well, Chevrolet fans and ASA fans have got to like what they're seeing right now. Two guys from the Midwest, names they're familiar with, Butch Miller, Dick Trickle, both of them driving Chevrolet Camaros, and we could have some kind of a shootout here to the final. Unless, of course, Butch Miller's car is as superior in handling as some people like to think it is. And, of course, there's a real carrot out there for Butch Miller to win 2 of these races in a row. And one man who has to be particularly pleased about this turn of events is the crew chief on the 99 car, Vic Gatzloff. Brock is down there with him.
Victor, looks like Butch can handle him right now. You hoping for another yellow, or are you just going to try to run it out?
We're running real loose right now. We're just trying to hold on to the end here. Hoping we can make it to the end. Butch is about 2/10 quicker right now, but anything can happen yet from here to the end. There's about 25 laps to go, but we're going to stick in there and try our best.
Okay, good.
Loose. That's a word we've heard a lot this day from crew chiefs and drivers. It means the rear end wants to come around, wants to get in front of the front end. In other words, the car is oversteering. And we've heard that complaint from Butch Miller as well. No one has said their car was set up too tight for this racetrack. So stay with us. There's just a few laps to go. When we come back to Queen City Speedway, the Stock Car Connection Cincinnati 300.
The Cincinnati 300 with Butch Miller holding on to a lead. Dick Trickle, we heard earlier, he's loose. He's got some handling problems, but he hadn't given up. And right behind him, Mark Martin in the 2 car, the heroic effort of the day. Big spin, bad pit stop, but he's still hanging on, Steve Evans.
And how about that 45 car we've talked so much about? A fellow from the local area, Dave Jackson, just started running ASA this year. Sat in the front row. Just an incredible effort, and he's in 4th.
He sure is, but right now he's being challenged by Ted Musgrave. So Dave Jackson has had his share of problems today as he's gone up and down the ladder in the standings. But Butch Miller, a totally different story. Moved steadily to the front after the green flag dropped at the start and is hung right in there in the lead, or they're very close to it. As we watch Musgrave move by Dave Jackson to take over that 4th spot. So Musgrave, again, showing a lot of strength near the end of this race, as he did at Santa Ana, Steve.
Yes, and the man just seldom ever makes a mistake. And I know you've talked to him for this weekend, as we did in Montreal. What a cool customer. Who's reminds you of him? Somebody almost has ice water from blood.
Yeah, he is a cool head, no doubt about it. As we watch him come down the front straightaway, moving through some of the lap traffic here. That's Kevin LePage in the 09 car. Kevin moving out of the way. He's back in 17th spot. There's Dave Jackson in the orange 45. Right behind him is the 81 of Harold Fair. He's back there in the 11th spot. So those guys staying high, letting the fast traffic through on the low side. That's a general technique here in a short track race, to go high and let the faster cars through down low. There's your leader, number 52, Butch Miller, circulating without any apparent challenge at this particular moment. No real problem. Had an excellent pit stop. In fact, his pit stops have been almost flawless all afternoon. And, of course, that has spelled the difference, certainly as far as Mark Martin's chances are concerned.
Indeed, and his pit location didn't hurt him a bit either. Way down on the end, right where you go back out on the racetrack. Never got boxed in. Never had any problems except for maybe running over his jack there once. Dick Trickle in the 2nd position, the number 99 car. They're getting out of his way as well. Everybody knows who the leaders are here now.
Well, Dick Trickle also had a pit right next to Butch Miller's way down at the end, and his congestion was minimal. We saw Jackson and Mark Martin both have problems. There is Jim Olson's number 77. Remember, he had a crash way at the beginning of this thing. They tore all the bodywork off, but he's chugging around in pretty good shape. Not up among them as far as the contenders are are concerned, but holding on to take home a few bucks in prize money as we watch one more time that very familiar white number 52 of Butch Miller moving on to what he hopes to be his second Stock Car Connection victory in a row.
And if he accomplishes that, he again will get a check for $10,000 and, of course, a lot of what they call contingency money. And there's Dick Trickle. The rewards won't be bad for second place either, but, you know, Trickle, he's not about to settle for that until the check falls.
Absolutely not. You heard Vic Genseloff, his crew chief, say they're loose. They got problems as far as the handling is concerned, but he's not going to give up as the leader, Miller, moves into some slower traffic. That could be a shot as far as Trickle's concerned. That's 36 Kenny Wallace, a lap car. He is going to move out of the way to let the leader through. A lot of courtesy shown at the end of these races by the slower cars. That's a simple act of sportsmanship. Every once in a while somebody will balk them, but not on purpose.
Well, Kenny's having a good day, really. He's in the 8th position in only his second year of competition, and there is Dick Trickle still circulating around, hoping to see that 52 car and to see the distance between them diminish, but I don't think that's going to happen here.
No, it isn't, Steve. It's the white flag lap. There's the crew watching intently that final half-mile circulation around this speedway as Butch Miller moves down the back straightaway and into turn number 3. Up ahead, the final corner, and the checkered flag. You can see it now, Steve.
He does, and it waves for car number 52, just as it did in Montreal. What a thrill through this is. Butch Miller has done it. Let me see if I can't talk to the man of the hour.
Butch Miller, this is Steve Evans. Congratulations, Cincinnati 300 champion.
Oh, thanks. I tell you what, I got the best crew in the country. You know, I hope Dan's car doesn't pick them up.
Well, I'll tell you, there's a very happy crew. A lot of your fans at Brock Yates waiting for you in the winner's circle. Again, great job.
Thank you.
Well, as Butch Miller runs his cool-off lap, we'll head for victory lane, as will his crew. They're sharing congratulations with Dick Trickle's crew right beside him in pit lane. And we'll be right back to talk to the winner of the Cincinnati 300, Butch Miller.
Well, the racing is over here at the Cincinnati 300, but the celebration has just begun for the crew of number 52, Butch Miller. What an impressive drive. Dick Trickle, the car just a bit too loose to catch him. Bob Seneker, he finally got in 6th. Bobby Gill rounded out the top 10. Right now, let's go down to victory lane and Brock Yates with the winner.
Well, here he comes. Butch Miller out of the car. Big wave to the crowd. Happy, happy man. A hot young man, for sure. Butch, no AC in there today, right?
They wouldn't give me any. I can't understand it. You know, they're the greatest pit crew in the world, but they will not give me air conditioning.
Well, our congratulations. Undefeated in the Stock Car Connection, but super race. You know, I noticed the last, after the last stop, you were the only guy on the racetrack able to stay low. You just tucked down in that low groove, and just the car looked like it was really hooked up.
It was. You know, we went back and forth and back and forth. First, we had too much loose, too much push. They finally got it right, and I could run. If I wanted to, I could run high, and if I wanted to, I could run low. They finally had it.
Well, Kevin and the guys were slapping themselves on the back after that stop. They put on those right side tires just super quick. You got out a little bit ahead of Dick and just drove away from him.
Oh, we got him way ahead of Dick. I can't say enough for those guys. The IROC Camaro Lane Automotive car just ran super.
Well, we're super proud of you, and our congratulations again on 2 in a row.
I hope to make it 3. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Butch Miller. And now, let's go to Steve Evans with the second place finisher.
Dick Trickle getting a well-deserved drink of water on a very hot day. You fought the good fight, only to come up about a half lap short.
Right, I'll tell you, the way this car was working and the setup and all, we took a 12th-place car and got second with it, and I got to give my crew and, you know, the Coors Light Silver Bullet team just a lot of credit, because the car just ain't there today, and we managed to bring it home second. That's as good as winning on a day like today.
Well, if it's okay with you, I'll give you some of that credit. You know, some very good race driving going on out there. Yours and your competitors. A good, clean race.
Well, I'll tell you, you know, you put these 3 series together, of course, ASA, the All-Pro, and the ACT Tour. and put them together in a package as a stock car connection, I'm telling you, got some good drivers now.
Indeed there are. Let's go to Brock with third.
Well, I'm with Mark Martin after a long, hard ride in that number 2 car. Mark, up and down all day long. And I know you told Steve on that last stop over the radio that the last stop probably cost you the race.
Well, Butch was bad fast, but I wanted to have a shot at it. I wanted to make him race. I made him race earlier in the race, and I just want to thank SAI for sponsoring us, the Roofing People of America, Bill Davis and Larry Shaw for doing a heck of a job. It's unbelievable that car could run up front like it did. As cold and as lack of experience as we all have with that car and with this team, and I just want to thank them and everybody else that has anything to do with it.
I couldn't agree more. What a tremendous show. Pennsylvania International Raceway will host a stock car connection event. That's in Nazareth, PA. You'll find one at the Wisconsin State Fair Park in Milwaukee. And of course, the race will bring you from Nashville, the Nashville Motor Speedway. And don't forget the big all-pro race in Birmingham, Alabama, coming up in just a couple of weeks. I'm Steve Evans, along with Brock Yates. Thanks for joining us from Queen City Speedway.
The executive producer for American Sports Cavalcade is Harvey M. Palish. Produced and directed by John B. Mullen. Promotional consideration provided for and a fee paid by the Style Auto World Championship Team, the nation's premier source of fast lane fashions. Style Auto, the champion's choice for the style of your life. The American Sports Cavalcade is a presentation of Diamond V Sports.